Have you ever wondered how the avoidance childhood trauma destroys your love life? How the avoidant you loved so deeply, the one who once made you feel seen, suddenly becomes distant, cold, and unreachable? Why every time you try to get closer, the avoidant pulls away as if love itself makes them uncomfortable? It's confusing, isn't it? Because you gave everything, your time, your empathy, your heart, and still, it wasn't enough. You replay the moments in your head, trying to understand what went wrong. Was it something you said, something you did, or were you just not enough for them to stay? But here's the truth: most people never realize it's not your love that failed, it's the avoidance childhood that never learned what love truly feels like. The avoidant doesn't reject love because they don't want it. They reject it because their nervous system has learned to fear it. To the avoidant, closeness feels dangerous, intimacy feels like losing control, and safety feels unfamiliar, so they push away what they crave the most: connection. They distance themselves not out of cruelty, but out of survival, because deep down love triggers the same fear they once felt as children, the fear of being abandoned, unseen, or emotionally suffocated. The avoidant grows up believing that needing someone is weakness, and depending on love means losing freedom, so every time you reach out, their instincts tell them to run. To you it looks like rejection, to them it feels like protection, and until that wound is seen and healed, the avoidance childhood trauma will keep replaying itself, in every relationship, every silence, every push and pull dynamic. It becomes a loop, where love turns into anxiety, and connection becomes confusion, especially for the empath who tries to love them, hoping that their warmth can melt the avoidance coldness, but love alone can't heal what trauma built. In this video we'll explore exactly how this happens, and to understand that, let's first take a closer look at how the avoidance insecure attachment was formed. How the avoidance insecure attachment was formed. A psychological perspective. To understand the avoidant, we have to go back, long before love, heartbreak, or adult choices. Back to a time when they were just a child, trying to make sense of a world that felt unsafe and unpredictable. Because the avoidant wasn't born distant, they were conditioned to be that way. Picture a small child reaching for comfort. They fall, they cry, their little hands reach out, but no one comes. Or worse, someone does, but their face is cold, their tone impatient, their words sharp: "Stop crying, handle it yourself." That single moment carries an invisible message: your emotions are a burden, your needs are too much. In that instant something fundamental shifts inside the child. They learn that vulnerability doesn't bring safety, it brings shame. They learn that expressing need leads not to comfort, but to rejection, so they stop reaching out. This is the birthplace of avoidant attachment, not rooted in violence or chaos, but in emotional deprivation. In the silence where love was supposed to live, perhaps their caregivers weren't cruel, just emotionally unavailable, too busy, too anxious, too overwhelmed to respond with empathy. But to a child, neglect doesn't feel like circumstance, it feels like abandonment. Their developing nervous system makes a deal for survival: if I want to stay safe, I must stop needing anyone. From that moment on, the child starts to adapt. When they're hurt, they hide it. When they're scared, they act brave. When they crave love, they swallow the need before it's seen. They disconnect, not only from others, but from their own emotions. Psychologically, this disconnection becomes defensive detachment, a subconscious survival strategy to reduce emotional pain. On the surface, they appear calm, self-contained, even mature for their age, but beneath that control lies a nervous system conditioned to fear closeness. As they grow older, this adaptive behavior crystallizes into personality. They begin to take pride in their independence, mistaking emotional avoidance for strength. To them, closeness feels like danger, distance feels like control, and the mind, in its effort to protect, builds a fortress, a psychological wall high enough to keep rejection out, but also love. Inside that wall lives a constant, quiet anxiety. If I let someone in, I'll lose myself. If I depend on someone, I'll be hurt again. By adulthood, the avoidance nervous system has been rewired. Bonding now triggers alarm instead of safety. The very sensation of intimacy feels threatening, not because of the person in front of them, but because of the pain behind them. And so the cycle begins, a pattern of distance, withdrawal, and emotional shutdown. In psychology, we call this the repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate early wounds in adult relationships. In the next part, we'll explore how this exact pattern, born in a childhood of neglect, plays out in love, and slowly destroys the empath's ability to feel safe in the relationship. How the avoidance childhood trauma destroys the empath's love life isn't always loud, it's silent, slow, and deeply confusing. It starts small. The avoidant says, "I just need some space." The empath nods, understanding, because that's what love does, right? It respects boundaries, but soon space turns into absence. Texts go unanswered, conversations grow shorter, and what once felt like a deep bond starts to feel one-sided. The empaths tells themselves they're just stressed, or maybe they just need time, but days turn into weeks, and the connection starts to fade. See, the empaths doesn't realize that what they're chasing isn't just attention, they're trying to reach the part of the avoidant that never learned to stay when love feels real. When the avoidant was a child, love often came with pain, a parent who was emotionally distant, critical, or unpredictable. So now, when the empath offers affection, consistency, and warmth, the avoidant's mind interprets it as danger. The moment the empath leans in with love, the avoidant's survival instincts whisper, "Get out before you get hurt." So they withdraw, detach, and create emotional distance. But here's where the real destruction happens. The empath personalizes it. They start believing something must be wrong with them. They overthink every message, replay every silence, and try to fix what isn't theirs to fix. For example, the avoidant doesn't reply for a day. The empath spends that day spiraling, wondering if they said something wrong, writing drafts they'll never send, checking the avoidant's online status just to feel close again. Meanwhile, the avoidant feels smothered, not because the empaths did anything wrong, but because vulnerability feels like losing control. So the avoidant pulls back even more, and the empath's chases harder. Both are running, one from closeness, the other from abandonment. This emotional tug-of-war leaves the empath drained. They start shrinking themselves, speaking softer, asking for less, pretending they're okay with space. But the truth is, every withdrawal feels like rejection. Every silence feels like proof that they're too much. And slowly, the empath's self-worth begins to erode. They confuse anxiety with love, thinking the pain of waiting means the depth of feeling, but it doesn't. It's trauma disguised as devotion. The avoidant doesn't destroy the empaths intentionally. It happens because their unhealed wounds recreate the chaos they grew up in, a pattern where love equals fear, and connection equals threat. So while the empath keeps trying to love harder, the avoidant keeps trying to feel safer, and both end up lonelier than before. Because the truth is, you can't build intimacy with someone who fears it, and you can't heal someone who keeps running from their pain. In the next part, we'll explore why this painful cycle keeps repeating, and how the empath can finally recognize it, stop chasing, and choose peace over pain. Life is what you do next. If you've ever found yourself trapped in this painful dance, whether you're the avoidant or the empath who tried to love one, this part is for you. Because understanding why you hurt is important, but learning how to stop repeating that hurt is what truly sets you free. Let's start with the avoidant. For them, healing doesn't begin with a partner, it begins with awareness. To realize that emotional distance is not peace, it's protection, built long ago by a scared child. Therapy and self-work help here, especially methods like inner child healing, attachment repair, and somatic therapy, which teach the body to feel safe again in closeness. An avoidant must slowly unlearn the reflex of withdrawal, and learn to sit with emotions without escaping them. They can start small, sharing one honest thought, allowing one moment of vulnerability, trusting that connection won't destroy them this time. It's not weakness to need someone, it's courage, the kind that redefines strength. And for the empath, healing means something else. It means letting go of the idea that your love can heal someone else's wounds. Because love doesn't heal trauma, self-awareness does. Your gift is empathy, but empathy without boundaries becomes self-erasure. So your healing begins when you stop chasing emotional crumbs and start honoring your own needs. When you stop mistaking inconsistency for depth, when you stop believing that someone's silence means you're unworthy, you can care deeply and still walk away. You can forgive and still choose peace, because your role was never to fix the avoidant, it was to recognize the lesson they carried into your life. The real healing begins when both sides stop running, the avoidant from love, and the empath from loneliness. When they both understand that love is not supposed to hurt, and closeness is not supposed to feel unsafe. Healing doesn't mean becoming perfect, it means becoming conscious. It means seeing the pattern, naming it, and deciding it ends with you. So if you're listening right now, take this as your sign. You don't have to chase love, you just have to heal for it. Because healed hearts don't repeat the cycle, they rewrite it. If this message helped you see your story a little clearer, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more content that heals hearts and explains the psychology behind love. Together we can break the cycle, one understanding at a time.